So welcome to this episode number 24. And my son and I were just on a we're in a deep conversation before we were on this call, and so I'm going to talk about that in a second to see if we want to even expand on that a little bit, bro. So you know, before before I got on this call, I'm going to be really honest with you. Like I felt very, very anxious for some reason. I was talking to my son. There's this collective going on with. I talked to another man yesterday. My son a little while ago. There's another man I talked to, and there's something going on in the universe where it's shaking us up a little bit, and we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out what's best, but this is why conversations like this are so important because what it does, it allows us to know that another man that I potentially trust and love is hearing me. Number two, I'm not alone. But number three, that it's solvable. Like this shit's solvable, but we have to have enough patience with ourselves to figure shit out. You have to have enough patience to figure out our own equation. So, we're on number 24. And I remember him and I coming together a year ago, this past June, we're in San Diego. And it feels like we've been doing this forever. So I'll leave that for now, bro. We could introduce yourself a little bit, but yeah, my name is Albert Chavez here, and yeah, this is the Legacy Project, number 24.
Welcome, everyone. It is 6:32, and we are scheduled to do a recap of the full season two. Just diving deep on and reflecting on this crazy journey that we've been on in 2024 when we decided last year to start the Legacy Project. And no, but I wanted to actually really dive into our conversation a little
Good.
more what we had because you had asked me like how my week is going. We were talking about just the flow of what's going on. It's interesting too, because I do question how connected we are, and then also like, are we just making some of this up just to have a conversation on it too? So it's this interesting thing that I'm learning now is like, what is so relatable about everyone's own journeys and ex existence, but also does it really mean that we're that connected that our brainwaves are gonna like feel the same stuff at the same time? So it's always interesting to me. I've talked about this in my men's group too. Like I feel like I'm on a cycle sometimes where like women have like their 28-day roughly cycle, but I feel like I'm on a cycle at times, and it seems like it's been about 18 days. I haven't directly correlated it, but I felt somewhat of a pattern of that for me. And so it is technically during this time frame when I do start to feel like this shift, but like so much is happening in the last week or so where I've just felt all this emotion of highs and lows. You have the holidays, you have more time outside to move some of that energy. So it's been great there. There's that cycle of summer. But then also this internal clock that I have
Yeah.
is kind of in motion and kind of conflicting with each other too.
No, and so what's beautiful about that, so let's dive into it. So a little context, we won't get too personal unless you want to, but I was asking Albert how his week was, and he was sharing a kind of a withdrawal. I'll give you an example. So whenever what I've had to experience, I'm divorced, been divorced 11 years now. And so my kids are grown. They've been out of the house for a long time. I got through that withdrawal process with them. However, whenever they come in town and I have get-togethers at my house, there's a lot of energy.
Mhm.
The energy's up, the vibration's up, right? We're in joy, fulfillment. And I'll talk about in this episode, by the way, the different frequencies and the emotional states we get in. It'll make more sense to us as we dive into that. I think that's a perfect segue. But I noticed as our family started coming together, right? We had our first birthday party with Brielle, and then we had Thanksgiving, and then we had some Christmas stuff, and then we're going on our fourth year doing this now. I didn't realize until this past year that when my house all of a sudden got really with all this energy, as soon as everybody left, it was quiet again.
Yeah.
And I actually felt, I don't believe in depression, but I believe in a depressed state because it has to do with this emotional frequency that I'll get in a little bit later. Because that energy of love and joy and happiness was gone. So then I had to create it for myself. So I would get in this depressed state of like, wow, all of that energy that I was not only giving but receiving is now gone. And that was the first time I realized that I had to figure out a way to regulate that type of depressed state. And so Albert was sharing with me what he was feeling. And I was sharing with him that another friend of mine, good friend of mine, happened to call me yesterday and he was feeling it. And so collectively, what I believe is, if you ever seen the movie Avatar, I think I never really understood it until that movie was like 10 years old, until now as an adult, that I believe we are all connected. We're all connected collectively with energy. And their studies have been done, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't really matter. I believe it. And I believe that your energy also attracts people and repels people. Your energy attracts people that should be in your life. So if you have negative energy, you're going to attract negative people. If you have positive energy, you have positive people. That's just a real paradox of talking about it. But my point is, I believe my son and the men in my life that I'm interacting with, we're all on the same frequency. He literally said he was feeling it yesterday. My son did, and I did. I was feeling it too, and my other good buddy. And so, to me, there's some truth to that.
It's funny you bring up Avatar, and when you talk about some of that stuff where for me yesterday, like all this emotion of like the highs of the week, right? I mentioned it earlier, is like you don't know where it really goes. You feel it kind of move in your body. You feel it like want to come out. But the hard part, I think, with specifically with men, is like we don't know where to always move that energy, right? It
Right.
goes to be towards sex. It usually goes towards lifting weights, some
Yep.
sort of like typical man stuff that you would do, right? And so I think what I've learned from you and what I've learned from Rising Man community, what I've learned in the last couple of years is I need to express that. I need to feel seen. I need to feel heard in some sort of way. And when I don't, I usually revert to like mindlessly moving that energy, but it's still stored somewhere. And so what you were talking about is like I felt yesterday that I didn't want to feel alone, you know?
Mhm.
I didn't want to feel that emptiness that you talked about, like
Mhm. Mhm.
when we're over for the holidays, you know, like
Mhm.
that insecurity of like what happens when the lights get cut off, you know? What
Yeah.
happens when the noise, the ambient noise of
Mhm.
like just laughter, community, like, and then
Mhm.
you're all alone, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's it's hard. I think for the most part, I'm really good at being on my own,
Yeah.
but then I
Yeah.
get so wrapped up in the wave of what I'm doing
Yeah.
that I enjoy this sense of like feeling connected with
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
so it's hard for me to always go back to
Yeah.
the mundane, you know,
Yeah.
from time to time. Because I get really caught up in whatever I'm doing, you know. I'm really good at riding the momentum, but then whenever I halt it, feels like everything crumbles really
Yeah.
easily. So I think
Yeah.
kind of basing it off of our story of evolution of legacy of recapping it, I think taking a piece of each of the chunk
Yeah.
of the chapters that we've learned in this past 12 weeks of grief with Carrie, of talking about fatherhood with Jason and with Brian, you know, and then with you sharing your piece of fatherhood. I think kind of taking each chunk of that and like from our first time doing this, you know, in the first season, it's like I feel like now I've understood what really fathering yourself means, and I embraced it last night, even though I knew it was going to be scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because I've seen the patterns that I've gone through before, and I'll resort to like watching pornography or
Yeah.
watching like, or just mindlessly scrolling and just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
feeling this pseudo wave of chemicals that I
Yeah.
input in my body.
Yeah.
And sometimes people do that with drugs or alcohol. And
Yeah.
for me, I've moved away from that and gone towards more like the social media route
Yeah. Yeah.
of fake connection and
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad we're talking about this because, I'll share a little bit what the evolution, what I've had to learn about fathering myself. So if I talked about it to you before, I'm going to just repeat it so you have an understanding. One of the most valuable lessons we talked about a little bit in the pre-call is I don't know what your wounding is. I don't know what your wounding is. My wounding I know is my mom left me at 6 years old. My dad was super abusive to me. It was normal for me. And when you're 6 years old, you don't have emotion. You're a kid. I get back up. You have emotions. You don't know what they are though. You don't know what sadness is. You don't know what happiness is. You don't know what being glad or scared. You kind of are familiar with those words when people tell you, but you don't know what they are. When we're adults, we now identify with these words. And so I know what my wounding is. And what, as I've gotten closer to that with these different relationships, like this last one I told you, the reason why it hurt isn't that it's more hurtful than the one before that or the one before that. They're women. And with women, what women have, women's responsibility as mothers is to nurture, is to show their kids how to utilize their emotions because they're expert at it. They're experts at expressing it's okay to cry, it's okay to be sad. They know how to nurture and guide that. I never had that. I was told to shut the fuck up. I was told to be quiet. I was told, do not cry, Albert. So now I'm an adult. And now I've gone full circle and I'm on this other side of things. I'm seeing things differently where that's not correct. I had to deconstruct these ideas of what this person was. But now I'm feeling all these emotions that I didn't feel as a kid. And they're destructive to me because I don't know what to do with them, like you said.
Mhm.
So what I had to do, what I do now is this practice. There was, I think I mentioned to you, I was feeling it back in December, like 1,000 knives were stabbing me. And I just went through a process of, Albert, what are you, I little, Albert, my son, I was like, I sat on the couch, my eyes closed, the lights were off. And I go, Albert, what are you so upset about? Out loud, not in my head, out loud. And then I really didn't have, I go, I feel sad. And I was like, but what are you sad about? So I just kept going down that rabbit hole and I kept asking questions out loud, out loud. And then one of the question was, what does this remind you of? So my point is there's this belief system that I had right here. Okay. I had to go down the rabbit hole of asking questions to get down to a belief system was here. What I recognized it had to do with the memory when I was 6 years old. It had to do with my mom. And once I recognized that, then I started saying, okay, well, why are you still holding on to that? It doesn't impact you. And I had to get through these questions. And then I pivoted the questions. I was like, so what are you excited about?
Mhm.
And then I started talking about you and my relationship with my kids. And all of a sudden, that energy, here's my point to you. I learned how to take that negative hurt energy and I turned it into a happy energy. I just pivoted it, but I had to get through the root of what was going on. Once I got through it, I tried to go back to the original motion of 1,000 knives. It was gone.
Mhm.
It was gone. So that is a play by play of what you do as a father. See, this is what fathers do. Fathers are very directive. That's why I call it fathering yourself. Mothers are very nurturing. It's different. They're more passive. They're more caring. They're more nurturing. So when you become a father, son, your role is going to be able to teach that young man how to handle his aggression and also how to have fun and be excited. That's why it's funny when you hear parents about, oh, dad's the fun one. Because dad's always telling the kids, you can go jump off that diving board. You can go jump. What does mom say? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right? Because they're nurturing and they're protecting. Fathers are adventurous. But there's certain traits that you have as a man that you want to go that curiosity. You have this aggression. So if you don't learn how to manage it, then get all combobulated because you don't know what to do with that energy. My whole soliloquy here is the fathering part is a description of what you need to do for yourself to lead and to direct yourself in a way that you can follow it in a pattern so you can learn how to pivot when you are going down that rabbit hole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Because I'm just imagining right now, like the step by steps, like of what would naturally happen. Like if you always follow your natural, like it's weird because you like we talk about you know internally what you need to do, but then there's this also like desire to want to like comfort yourself too, right? And those can be the same thing, right?
Mhm.
But it's interesting, like how do we know when we've like when you build these all these interesting habits to comfort yourself, but then also your body is telling you, no, I should be doing something else. Why do we feel like we we have to go to the easy route? I think it's always interesting. Like, why do we feel like humans naturally have to like save room just for maybe down the line? Because do you ever, I guess people probably ask you this all the time when you're like, why do you wake up at 2, 3 a.m., right? Like, what if you could save that energy towards something else, right? But it's like we know we're gonna have more energy down the line too. So what is really stopping you from doing it in that moment, you know? Like, why would you not want to continue going down the rabbit hole of your thoughts? It's I mean, I'm scared sometimes too about it. It's fascinating why we just don't confront those issues right away.
Well, you have to understand there's feelings. Your feelings aren't facts. Your feelings are always going to do what feels good. So there's you do have two people inside of you. You have your feelings that say, "Oh, it's more comfortable to do this," right? That's why they're feelings. They're fleeting though. They're fleeting. But then you have this other part of you. This is where it's really important to be a man. This is where men are different than women. We are. We have characteristics. We have certain traits that we do, and then there's this other part that we have to do it. You have to do it because if you're always in this mode of your feelings, you're always going to find reasons why not to do something. More than time, more than not. I mean, when's the last time I remember? Just this morning, I woke up. I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym. Finally got there because I was aching. My back was hurting me. And I was like, oh, this is awful. I was feeling awful. I showed up. I warmed up a little bit. Took a little longer. I didn't work out as hard, but after I was gone, I was like, I'm so glad I did this. That's a
Mhm.
feeling though. But if I had been the other state of mind of feeling insecure or down and out, again, there's a frequency. So let me go into that real quick. So there's a frequency chart. Okay. You can look it up online. Just look up like emotional frequency chart. And there's a chart. Basically, it's the top part is high frequency, the low part is low frequency. And these are emotional traits we all have. So the bottom of the tier is shame, guilt, apathy, anger, fear, desire. Now think
Mhm.
about that. Fear is lower than desire. Really interesting because what happens is if you don't manage it, those desires become pleasures that you're going to be doing because the fear is going to embrace it more. So,
Mhm.
but if you're in this shame, in this low frequency state of shame, the only way you can get out of it is the top tier frequency is the top is enlightenment, joy, happiness. So, how do you get from shame to happiness? You have to earn it. You have to go do something that's going to get you out of that frequency. Well, how do you get out of there? Well, our body is just like water. Like stale water is what? It's poison.
Right.
But so if you're shaming, what happens when most people are shame or feeling guilt? What do?
They cuddle, they cocoon, they don't want to move. You even see it in there. They
Yeah,
hunch over.
yeah. They're soaking at home watching Netflix and popcorn for 8 hours. They're soaking. That frequency, low frequency, is the inability that's going to allow you to get to the higher frequency. So that's why all these practices are go for a walk, move your body, cold plunge, all these things so that your body can naturally move into a higher frequency state. And again, this is why I, as a man, have learned that when you can teach yourself how to do something hard, that when you're done doing it, you may not have done it to perfection, but you do it, you automatically elevate yourself to a higher frequency. Oh my God, I did it, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to, oh no, I couldn't do it. Like when you, for example, you're a runner, right? If you were to go run 5 miles, let's say 12 miles today, right? But you hadn't trained, it would be really hard, right? Like,
Right.
fuck. But let's say you did it, you'd be like, oh my God, I did it. It's incredible. It's the same thing. It's the ability to teach yourself how to manage your frequencies by doing things that's going to raise your vibration. So what I've taught myself, and I've learned this through practices and reading and different people I know, is you can gain higher frequency through peak physical performance. It's why I teach get up early, do burpees, go run. You can elevate your energy level. And I read in the morning, I read a positive quote. I eat, I do all these things to raise my vibration. Sometimes that doesn't always work.
No.
So another thing is to give away what you're seeking. So let's say you're seeking love. Go tell somebody, I love you. Or sometimes I'll send a text, hey, bro, I'm thinking about it. I've done it too. Hey, bro, you're on my heart today. What does that do? When you give away what you're seeking, you get in return what you sought.
Mhm.
It's that ability for gratitude. And so we have this ability, bro, to really go from shame, guilt, apathy, fear, desire, yeah, but fear, anger, and so you we have the ability to do that, but if we don't know that we have the ability, then we're just going to stay there. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I was just writing down when you're talking about when sometimes you don't feel like doing something, like you're still feeling that like low vibration stuff right now too. And I wanted to touch on that too. Um, I don't remember where I heard it, but it was some like I think it was some like Japanese or Chinese proverb or something like that, where if you're doing something like out of the principle, and I was talking to someone with this recently, I don't remember who, like when you're just doing something to just check a box, right? Versus actually being there and present, being intentional with it too. It's weird how your body still knows it. Like, yes, it's still beneficial for you to go to the gym when you're not feeling it, but when you actually are there, when you actually are there present, your mind and your body will be so synced up that it'll it'll get you out of whatever you're feeling no matter what. And even if you're feeling super low, you will feel so much better just because you went through that hard step, just because you pushed your body to move a little bit more. And man, I'm pumped to get back to it. I think that's something that I've noticed too, is like in this last week, yeah, it was great to like have all these great highs, but even just moving my body just a little bit more is something I'm looking forward to doing and just getting that movement back with myself. Because there's something that's just different when like you just make that your heartbeat just a little bit uncomfortably, like it's almost primal in a sense to make you feel like you're like pushing yourself and like almost kind of killing yourself in a way, but you're making yourself better long term.
So think about this for a minute. You asked me a question a few months ago. So, Dad, do you like coaching? What was my answer?
Said no, I hate it
Right,
or something like
right,
that because it's something that you don't like doing, you don't
right,
like in like that portion of it, but it's something you have to do.
right. So I want you to close your eyes for a minute. You were feeling something about 30 minutes ago. You still feeling it?
No.
Do you know why?
I think because we're able to move that energy by talking, we're able to just like one focus to
Yeah,
see what that goal is, and
yeah.
then three is like it's just moving that energy, move that emotional state up a little bit more, you know?
So make it more simpler. What were my two things that I said I do
With what?
with raising vibration, peak physical performance, and give away what you're seeking? Guess
Right.
what you're doing right now?
That's what we're doing.
We're doing it. We're doing the bottom part. This is why I love coaching. This part. We're not coaching, but we're talking about things of substance that matter that I have gone through, you're going through, and now we get to collaborate. That collaboration, this is where I believe in my theory that we're all connected. Because now you and I are connected even more, and everybody on here are connected. Because now we're in this vibration. They're hearing us, they're understanding it. They may not agree. It's not about agreement, it's about being in the same level of vibration that we're bringing what we're seeking. And what are we seeking? We're seeking knowledge, we're seeking clarity, we're seeking affirmations, we're seeking being heard. Does that make sense? This is why I think this is so impactful what you and I are doing, bro. Because literally a half hour ago, we were both in different states,
Hmm.
right? We
Right.
were in this apathy state. I would say apathy, right? We weren't angry. We weren't fearful. We weren't desiring. We were in this apathy. We were lower. And now we're in this joyfulness now.
Hmm.
Think about the power of that. See how that can you resonate with that?
I can feel it because it's like you know whatever mood I was in before, whatever mood we were in before, it's like I don't know, you feel looser in your joints
Yeah,
too. You know, I
absolutely.
feel ready, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny too, like just something like you said, I think whenever I feel low too, I've actually been practicing this with some friends. Like some people will post, you ever notice on social media, like when someone's just posting a little bit too much, you know? I always joke about it with like, you can tell when a girl breaks up with someone, or even a dudes do it nowadays on social media, right? They'll like post a sad song on there or something like
Oh my
that. Or
God. Yeah.
the guy's like, he's at
Some
the gym
quote
a
that has
little
to do
bit.
with all, yeah.
What's
Oh my,
up?
some quote about knowing yourself or love thyself or something like that. Some stupid
Yeah,
bullshit.
or he's at the gym a little bit more too. What's up, Christian? And you can just tell when someone's going through a breakup, right? They're
Yeah,
feeling it. And I've been calling some people now, just if I have their number, right? Be like, hey dude, what's up going on? And they're like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm like, bro, you're not fine. So it's just like we just learning to be accepting of that a little bit more is just so powerful because you just don't know where it's gonna be. Like
yeah,
you don't know where the conversation is gonna go. And I think like even now I feel like happy to like
yeah,
share that more with people. Like if you're feeling down and out, like you can
yeah,
call one of us, you can text us, DM
yeah,
us,
yeah, yeah,
and we'll be there for you because we know how it is to feel low. Like
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
does,
yeah. So let me ask you, so you feeling better? You feeling good? And
Yeah, I mean,
I thought we covered a lot here just in the last 20 minutes.
well, and it goes back to the thing like we all know what we need to do,
Yeah,
and it's just like it just sucks like
yeah,
that you have to do it, but it's also like that's the best part is
yeah.
going through that stuff too,
Mm, mm,
is you know what you have to do. It's just like, why are we stalling it?
yeah,
Just because we're
yeah,
scared that something might not feel good temporarily,
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Cool.
yeah.
So let's go just that if you're cool with that, let's kind of dive into and I'm glad we went over that, dude. That only took 20 minutes. And again, guys, think about this. Everybody that's on here, think about the beauty of what just happened right now. We could come in here and have a topic, right? And this is what I learned from my men's group, fucking the best one out there with Threshold. We had a fucking great group. Okay. I'm not a part of it anymore, but I'm still in spirit with them. But this is the important part. Like we can have an agenda. And this is where support in men really has to elevate more. We can have an agenda, but sometimes a man needs support now. A man needs support. And my son was feeling a little bit. That's why I invited him in the beginning and he wanted to dive a little further. That was his choice as well. But just think about the power of just what just went on. A, between two men. B, between two related people. We're relatives. C, he's my son and I'm his father. Like that bridge, that gap that we're creating is because we both understand the importance that it's not just about talking about something. It's about let's try to understand a little bit more. Let's try to get to know the challenge and the problem and come up with some sort of solution. But also it's about hearing another man and receiving what he's going through and having compassion to know that I'm going through it as well. I think
Mm.
that's what the powerful part where I just experienced this last 20 minutes.
And it's hard to do with family. I think that's
Yeah,
another thing too.
it
It's
is.
hard. There's so many layers of potential holding of past instances, past memories, and you just don't know where it's going to lead. And sometimes, like, even if it's just like a friend, like, you just don't know where it's going to be. So for me and you to just keep doing this, I
Yeah,
feel like it just eases it for everything else that we do. It's
yeah,
so connected with our friends, with our
yeah,
family members, even just meeting strangers
yeah,
too. Um, I was actually thinking about you a little bit too, because you said you've been more open with people that you're meeting now, and it's allowed for them to kind of reciprocate that too off the bat.
yeah,
I found that fascinating and trying with different people that I'm interacting with because, it's the holiday this
yeah,
past week and you meet lots of new people, some people that
yeah,
I've known but haven't really introduced myself with. So it's just a little bit more curiosity comes out
yeah.
of it.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So,
I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry.
oh, good. I was just finished. I was going to
So
pivot.
I went to a part of got invited to a birthday party last night. Good friend of mine, she invited me. It's a realtor. Her friend's boyfriend was birthday, and I know him. Went over and I don't talk about my book. I don't go to people's houses and say, hey, by the way. But the boyfriend, he goes, hey, I heard you wrote a book. And what's interesting is his parents were there. And here's what I learned, right? I know what I look like, everybody. I know I've got tattooed. I know who I am. I designed this guy, by the way. I designed him on purpose. I know what I look like. So whenever somebody whenever I tell them that they know I wrote a book, they always go, "You did?" Right?
Like you've never like written anything in your life.
No, because again, to be an author, Albert, I'm going to tell you, it's a big deal now. Like, but they're like, "You did? What's it all about?" it's cute, it's funny, and I embrace it because I earned it. But my point is, we started talking about it, and they were asking me a bunch of questions, and I could tell you all day long about the book, but unless you experience my life, you don't really know about it. So my whole point is, what the book has allowed me to do, though. Let me tell you what it allowed me to do. It allowed me to really get personal with these people right away because they asked me some of the stories and I got a little bit intimate, not into details, but and they start opening up. Well, yeah, this happened to me when I was a kid. Oh, that I experienced this. So it's amazing what these little gestures of intimacy that I've been able to open up, vulnerable. Because the old dad you had would have never told anybody. It would have been very superficial, like what do you do for a living, how long you been doing it, how long you been married, all these superficial, fake ass conversations.
Mhm.
But now we're talking about, wait, what? That happened to you? Wow, I have a brother. So now my point though is to what you were talking about is the level of depth, Albert, that I can go with people. But I first have to be vulnerable with them. When I show, again, give away what you're seeking. When I'm more vulnerable and I leave from that point, it now opens up the Pandora's box to they feel more safe. That's how I've been able to grow as quickly as I can with you and with your sisters and friends and family that I have is because I finally learned how to stop holding on to these insecurities and stories. And now I'm the first one to say, this happened. I experienced this. And now it gives people permission to say, oh, okay. And now the level of depth is just way different.
I think it's one that's funny, just how people are just would just judge so easily. And we
Yeah,
all do it, right?
of course.
That's the first thing that kind of pops up for me. But two is just like I think that I'm just taking back to when you told me like, okay, I'm gonna actually get this done, you know? I think it was June of last year or May,
It was May 12th.
May 12th. Yeah. So you remember it more than I do.
Well, because we were going on our trip on June 12th, June 15th. So I had to get
Yeah,
it done quick.
yeah. You're right. You said it a month before, and it's like I think that did open up so many layers too, because we got to see you in a different light too. You mentioned how like it was easy for you to be more open, but it was almost I think me and Kaylee and Alyssa, we haven't directly talked about it, but I think it just allowed us to see what really went on before we were there.
Mm.
I feel like it was you didn't touch too much on your early life, but it was enough to kind of just give a little bit more on what was really going on. And I think that's kind of what you've been doing just with your conversation now. It's just a little bit more just to kind of see like, okay, you don't have to just do the robotic, like, hi, how are you? I'm good. How's your holiday? What do you do for work? You know, it's like you've already kind of shown it without needing to share it and like just blurt it all out too. So it's this weird like way for people to see you and feel seen so that way they can reciprocate that back to you
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a
So
great journey. I'm actually working on a second edition right now. So
nice.
you're gonna hear more of the story. I decided to do a little prelude and add a couple of chapters in there just to give it more context now because I just wrote it just how was what was going on, and now I went back and read it and just adding some filler to it, adding like the pre-story to the story, what was going on as a kid, a teenager, and when I got married and who I got
Hmm.
married to. No names, but just I wanted to set the stage that way. It was a little bit more I would say entertaining and more of a backstory as opposed to just going from boom 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 every chapter, which was great. It was just I want to fill it in, and then I'm also gonna incorporate the workbook in there now instead of having two things. I'm gonna have the workbook in there.
Hmm.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'm excited.
That's awesome. That'll be cool to see. You have to share more about that
Yep.
over the course of this too.
Yeah.
So just kind of backtracking and talking about like a little more of our history this last 12 weeks, right? What would you say is like really stood out to you that we can bring to everyone and what did you get out of this last 12 weeks of talking everything from alcoholism, we talked about grief, we talked about what it means to father yourself, what it means to sub questions that we got to go through
Yeah.
personally between father and son.
Well, I would say the cumulative. I think what opened up the Pandora's box for me when we had Carrie on, just talking about her story about her husband and son. But what it did for me, it I look at things in perspective of how can that apply to me? and I've learned how to compartmentalize, like, okay, evaluate. It's a self-analysis. Like, okay, so how does that apply to me? And I look at that light, that could have been me, dude.
Mhm.
Could have been me. Like, I could have given up. So that really hit me because I have a different point of view of what suicide is. I think it's a very selfish act. I've said that before, especially if you have kids. But as we progressed into even talking with Jason and even talking with Brian, and then you and I talking one on one about the vices and alcoholism, sobriety, what I loved about Jason's conversation about fatherhood is he I felt like you and I were able to help him open up a little bit.
Mhm.
We saw some vulnerability in him. Other two men, a father and son, he could see the potential of what his daughter and him could have someday. That was impactful for me. I love the fact that when Brian came on, Brian got to tell you a story about me. You got to learn from a third party as opposed to hearing it from me. And I think that I'm talking for you, but my curiosity would be is like, did that bring you closer to understanding me a little bit more, right? I feel like that third party endorsement, being there at the desert, corroborating our stories, allowed you to see things a little bit more clearly on why I am who I am
Mhm.
and how I became this person and why. And then lastly, I just love the growth that I've been able to experience with you um, in our conversations, the intimacy that's happened. Even last week when we were just diving into just a lot more of like, why are we so serious? What is behind this mask that we have? Why are we so similar but so different in so many ways? And that's allowed me to connect with you more to understand, and also how this part of me, this part of my guard down a little bit to not judge as much and to have a little more compassion, but also still have the values that I have for myself. So all in all, I think the first 12 weeks were um I think us trying to gain momentum and what we were doing. But the last 12 weeks, I really felt like we got to really be more creative and just really just hone in on some interview skills and some practices that I just feel like they're going to take us to wherever we need to go, the next heights.
I think it was good practice this last 12 weeks. Yeah. Like just practicing on meeting new people that we didn't really know.
Yeah.
You know, we met and I think too is like not being too surface level.
Yeah.
I think the first 12 weeks we were still trying to figure our groove out, um, getting more comfortable talking live, and now it just feels like it's second nature. It was cool also to remember if it was Brian or Jason, but just like allowing them to feel like we were just having a phone conversation. That was cool to really
Yeah.
witness in person. And so I'm looking forward to more conversations like that. And we have a couple people that we are bringing on to for the next session as well. Um, I think for me, what I learned too is I learned a lot about you. Like the alcohol one was really pivotal because you shared your story on what that was in your life. The questionnaire one, that was crazy just
Yeah.
to
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
directly talk, like almost talk to you as if I was like a little kid kind of.
Yeah.
And then Brian's story of hearing the other perspective on who you were in the
Yeah.
desert. I think this one was almost like kind of your story. And I think it was still our story, right? But I think I learned a lot more about who you are outside of being just a dad, you know. So that was pretty powerful for me to hear.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. And what are you looking forward to this next 6 months as we produce more and explore more?
Well, we got the YouTube channel.
Yes, we do. Let
We
everybody
have
know.
we have the Legacy project. It's live. So we'll be promoting that more. We have shorts already on there. We have it on all the podcasts. We have
Yep.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Yep.
you name it. So YouTube, Spotify. Um, we have lots of shorts in there too as well, and we'll be more direct communication in line with you guys. So that way you can see what's really going on,
Mhm.
and we'll be continuing pumping out content so that way you guys can see what you missed in case you don't get a chance to watch the full live because we know this is in the
Right.
middle of your week.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And then I think two things. One, bringing more youth on
Yeah.
to our conversations,
Yeah.
which brings more curiosity. And then I want to bring more excitement with myself.
Mm.
I think personally, what I need to bring is a little bit more enthusiasm. I
Mm.
think that's what I want to bring to this next 12, specifically 12 weeks, but into the next
Mm.
half year, because we have a lot of big stuff coming and I
Yeah.
can feel it. And I want to just like double what we've
Yeah.
already created.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I would love to see you. So let me give you a little bit of perspective. Like I've seen massive growth in the last year. Like I've seen massive growth from you just in your questions in the last 6 months, 3 months. So you can be hard on yourself, but I'm not going to be hard on you. Like I think you've done a phenomenal job on here. I think everybody that I talk to, the guests, they're always like, your son he's just has some great questions. He's very compassionate. So I would say make sure you keep that in play, right? Keep that in play. But yeah, play a little bit more. Don't take yourself so seriously like your dad. And whatever excitement means to you, whatever that I don't know what that means. Was it more passionate? Is it louder voice? Maybe figure out what that is for you. Again, I have my own way, and you figure out your own way, and just play with it. There's no right answer. No one's gonna know, right? No one's gonna
Mhm.
know. They already kind of experienced you, and so if they see things different, they'll know that it's a different you. And I think that's what I've had to really lean on for myself is I've had to know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I am once you cool it off a little bit, right? If you let that tea cool down a little bit and get past the demeanor and the intensity and the passion, and you actually listen to the words and hear the message, it's relatable. And so whatever that is to you, you can experiment and have fun with it. But yeah, I can't wait to, we're going to go into the summer months. Summer's almost halfway over here, and um, we're going to get into fall, and we're going to have a whole different segment of um, topics. And I want to explore, the seasons. Maybe let's talk about the seasons and what they represent. I know in your group there's some folks that know about them. Maybe bring someone on in your group that talks about seasons. We're in the harvest season now, right now. When we go in the fall season, things start drying up a little. Then the winter time is it's a dead season. So that would be a great topic to talk about how that affects us in our emotions and stuff. But yeah, I'm just excited for where it's going. I tell everybody all the time, like I don't really care where this is going. What's up, Zeeb? I don't really. I get to be a fortunate man father that gets to have a conversation with his son about some deep shit that we just go down a rabbit hole that no other father's having right now that I know of. And
Mhm.
for me, that's like it's a win-win because I get to share, I get to be myself, I get to ask questions, I get to learn about you more, and also get to build a bit bigger connection with you.
I love it. I love you so much. It's been a
Sir.
fun Tuesday afternoon, night, and I'm excited for next week. We get to start the season three, and we will share more content on what we got. Again, we have the Legacy Project on YouTube,
Yep.
officially live and podcast. So we're excited to bring more stuff to each and every one of you. And thank you again for another episode and just recapping a great successful season and just being more intimate. I think we went on a tangent to start it off, but I think it was really powerful just to see like just to feel like what you are really going through and what I'm going through on a day-to-day basis because it's real. When it hits, it's real. And it takes a lot of courage just to show up every day for that.
Well, it takes a lot of strength to talk about it. It takes a lot of strength to say this is what's going on. We're only able to do that because we're at this point where we can do that, right? A few years ago we couldn't because there's this trust and all the things we're dealing with. So let's just continue working on this. Let's continue growing. Let's continue sharing, and yeah, can't wait for next week.
Cool. I love you.
All right, love
Enjoy
you
your
too.
night.
See you guys.